the Republicans face a tough decision on the president's new Supreme Court pick. And two of the country's sharpest legal minds are next. You have got to hear what they have to say about the nominee. It's not what you are expecting, and you won't hear it anywhere but here. Breaking tonight, a new battle erupting between the White House and Republicans after President Obama nominates Judge Merrick Garland to fill the Supreme Court seat once held by the late conservative Justice Antonin Scalia. GOP Senate leaders have already signaled they will not consider any nominee, including this one, before Election Day, a notion President Obama objected to during his announcement today.
To suggest that someone as qualified and respected as Merrick Garland doesn't even deserve a hearing, let alone an up or down vote, to join an institution as important as our Supreme Court, when 2/3 of Americans believe otherwise, that would be unprecedented.
The American people are perfectly capable of having their say. The Senate will appropriately revisit the matter when it considers the qualifications of the nominee the next president nominates.
Joining me now, Tom Goldstein. He's the publisher of the website SCOTUS blog. He's argued dozens of cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. And Jonathan Turley, who is a constitutional attorney and professor at the George Washington University School of Law. Thank you both so much for being here. Tom, let me start with you. What do you make of this pick? What do you think Republicans should be making of this pick?
Well, Republicans, in truth, ought to be doing cartwheels. This is as centrist, as moderate, as conservative a nominee as any Democratic president was ever going to put on the Supreme Court. That's why Orrin Hatch has supported him in the past. But Republicans are standing on a really strong principle to their mind, and that is this is the tipping point of the Supreme Court. And so they really don't care who the nominee was. They were going to hold out as long as possible for the next election.
Because they're hoping to put in somebody who looked a lot more like Justice Antonin Scalia under a Republican president, Professor Turley, which leads us to the possibility that the Republicans might yet confirm Judge Garland, and you tell us under what circumstances they would do that.
Well, it's certainly possible. You know, the Hillary Clinton could prevail in the presidential election, and the Republicans could look at Judge Garland and prefer the moderate they know than the liberal they don't, and go ahead and move forward with the nomination during the Obama administration and secure the seat. Now, that will require them to walk back to some extent. That would not be the next president selecting the nominee. But in this city, those types of calculations are made.
That's fine.
But I think that, well, you know, the other thing is that, you know, Mitch McConnell may also realize that Republicans have more skin in the game than Democrats. They have more reason to come out in the election if this is still a pending matter. It is certainly true that he could have a transformative effect. He is a moderate, but he's going to be to the left of Scalia because of where Scalia was.
That's right.
And, you know, Mitch McConnell may believe that, you know, they shouldn't just give this up, that it may be a rallying point for the general that they need.
Tom, they will do no better if Hillary Clinton becomes the next president. There's no way they'll do better than Judge Garland. Not a chance. So they may be open to this guy if she wins the election. But the question is, what are they going to get? If they wind up with Judge Garland on the court, what are the issues that might be potentially problematic to the GOP that he might stumble on in confirmations?
Well, they should realize that it's possible that the president will withdraw the nomination, and so they may still get the more liberal nominee. But conservatives are very concerned about. Yeah, exactly. Could get left out there hanging. You were talking about in critical issues like abortion, affirmative action, religion, gay rights. All of the major social issues at the Supreme Court are very closely divided. Justice Scalia, when the conservatives had a majority, was obviously central to that. He was an extremely conservative guy, but he was one of those five. And you lose that vote, you can lose the Supreme Court. That's what conservatives are really so very concerned about, is a quarter century of what will happen to the Supreme Court next.
So, Professor Turley, you're telling me that this guy, so he had an emotional day in the Rose Garden today, that President Obama could yank the rug out from under him if Hillary wins in that lame duck period between November and January and say, Judge Garland, my apologies. You're out of here. I'm going far left, and I'm going with somebody who's in their 30s, unlike you who's in their 60s. Watch him today. There was an emotional moment. Watch it.
This is the greatest honor of my life, other than Lynn agreeing to marry me 28 years ago. It's also the greatest gift I've ever received.
It's amazing to see such a respected jurist, you know, emotional like that. It's kind of touching. But could President Obama be so mean?
I actually don't believe that he could be so mean, and I think many of us would really be, really repelled by that scene. I mean, this is Judge Garland's third time. It's sort of like being third on a match. It's not a lucky place to be, particularly when you find yourself between these types of forces. I think that people are going to demand fair treatment for him. But you know what's interesting, though, is that I don't want to discount one aspect that is sort of a live torpedo in the water for Judge Garland. There's things for liberals not to like about him, certainly conservatives not to like. But his vote on the precursor to Heller, when he asked for it to be reconsidered, many people believe that he was opposed to the ultimate decision in that case. And Heller is gospel for conservatives.
That recognizes an individual right to bear arms.
That's right. Now, you could have the NRA score this vote. You could have the NRA saying, we think that he's a non-believer. And if you vote for him, you're voting to endanger this key case. That could be a real game changer.
He's unquestionably qualified, Tom, but we've gotten to a state where that no longer gets you through. Scalia was qualified. He got 98-2 in the Senate, 98-0 because a couple people were absent. No longer. They look at you ideologically now.
Yeah, that's the only lens right now. This is power politics, and it's because the Supreme Court has itself used so much power that it is just like every other institution in town, and so control over it is an enormous prize.
Wow. Fascinating. Love talking to you guys. Smartest people in the legal profession, with the exception of all the other lawyers we have on the show as well.
On the exception of you.
At least equal. Great to see you.
Thanks, Megyn.
Coming up, Donald